Okay, so I did copy from my tracing paper sheet, and the pencil lines are very, very dark. So normally, if I had traced with a lighter colored pencil, because I used that for the rub off method before, it normally wouldn't copy this dark, and I could go in and lighten it on the copier, but I just chose not to do that. I'm gonna go ahead and use this page. The thing that I do like about it is I can make multiple copies if I am going to put my collection on a page. If I mess up, it's not detrimental because I have more than one. I can also use one as a practice to plan out my color, so that if I'm not crazy about my first set of color choices, I can have multiple copies. Again, your pencil originals sketches, do not ink those. Always make a copy, okay? And the copy paper is fine for marker. So I'm just gonna make sure I have a bleed sheet here. Under my marker, and what I did was put my figures over on the left because I'm gonna actually plan out to put my flats over here on the right, okay? So I'll show you how to put the figures and the flats on the same page, but you can also put the flats on a page by themselves. It's up to you. So I'm gonna go in and just start inking. And I'm gonna keep a sheet here just for me to test out my colors. Okay, so again, I'm gonna go in first with my skin color. So going in the direction, I'm gonna just fill this one with flat color, and it will look like it has an outline just because my copy is so dark. And I'm gonna try to remember a highlight and where there would be shadow on the body. Okay, so thinking about your light source. And let's try to do something other than black hair today. Like a dark brown. Okay, so I'm gonna go in and just kind of color. I think I want a really pale, just kind of a fleshy color for the lip. And not as pale as I thought, but and now that this is dry, I can go in if I want to add some color, and I'm using the brush tip Just put some more shadow on the skin tone here. Just to give her some more dimension, building up values. I know under the little cape would be darker, where her skin is touching the garment would be a little darker. Okay, and then I can also do the same with the hair. And just go over it a little bit more. Again, for the dramatic effect, I'm just kind of using the white of the page. And then I can use the fine point if I just want to define it a little bit more. Later, I might just cover it with a little bit of colored pencil. And let's go in and not crazy about that skin tone. Let's see if we can find one that's her. I like that one. Okay, so I'm gonna go in and fill skin tone in again. And I'll wait for that to dry. Let's see if we can do some kind of a interesting color here. Stick with the same color here. I like that. And you can just see the difference in when we're rendering with marker, things are sharper, you can build up more value, and the watercolor is a little bit better for, this is too pink, things that are maybe sheer or lightweight fabrics, or given like painterly effects. Pink lip. I'm gonna go back over her just one more time with the skin color. And I'm not sure how well that's picking up. Just because I'm recording this with Zoom, so the colors just look really flat. Okay, so then I'm just gonna go in and start inking. Okay, so I have this yellow jacket, and just want to go in the same direction. And if you want to keep it kind of like a loose style, that's fine too. I'm just filling this in with flat colors. Then I can kind of build my values up a little bit. Let's see. Color. And these have a lot of ink in them. So, especially when you have new markers, just lightly touch your page, because they're gonna have so much ink in them. Okay, so I'm using the brush tip, but for the larger area, I'm gonna go and switch to the chisel tip. Probably want to use a chisel tip so I can get better coverage without it being streaky. And you can already see the difference between the watercolor effect and the marker. Okay, and I think I had, it wasn't actually orange, it was like a reddish color. More like a coral. Yeah, it's more like this color, the little pockets. And again, the yellow will probably be hard to bring up more value on because it's so light. So what I'm going to do is wait and go back over it with color pencil, just like we did the watercolor. And I am going to just go in and put some value on the pants. So now my little pocket here is going to be dark near the seam. My little pin tuck here is going to be pretty dark. So I'm going to shadow it. This side of the pant, close to the inside of the leg. Here. Inside the leg here. So just building up some value here. Bottom of the pant. And it'll just kind of make your figure look like it's starting to pop off the page, which is what you want. Okay, and then that little print just on the inside of the shirt. I'm just gonna kind of suggest it and put some color in there. A little bit of all the colors. And just be careful, let your marker dry, especially if you go in with the darker colors first so that they don't kind of bleed. Okay, and then for her, let's maybe do the shawl in the reddish orange color. And don't forget your details. So I want to make sure that looks like it's wrapping around her arm. So I wanted to get behind her arms there. And I did not really plan out this, if I'm going to do the print over here. I didn't really plan it out. So I'm going to kind of do that now. And now you can see it looks a little bit more vibrant. There's a bunch of little marker tricks I like to use. There's one called pointillism where I'm gonna just go in here because even on the print, some of the lines are a little bit darker than others because it kind of looks hand painted. Where let's say I want to indicate some sequins or do like an ombre effect. So I'll start where it's darker and just kind of start spreading dots out a little bit. And I love doing this with marker. You can create sort of like a ombre effect. So maybe I've just made this, you know, sequin. There's some sequin on here for even wear. And with the ombre effect, just the further out you get, you want to spread your dots out and just kind of shade it by putting the dots sort of closer together. So maybe I'll do this in this section up here. Just to give it some more depth. Okay, so there's that figure. So let's see, what I wanted to do was go in and then show you how you can go over this with watercolor, or I'm sorry, with the colored pencil. Okay, so I'm gonna go in now and I can use the same effect as with the watercolor and use the color pencils to go in and define it. Now, sometimes the marker has so much saturation that you actually need to go a step darker. Let's see if I have a step darker. Because those are literally the same color. This is a little bit darker. So I can go in here and kind of, it's not doing much, so there's really no point. If I just want to give some value here, you can kind of see it over it. I can kind of go in and darken it. It doesn't look so flat. With the yellow, same thing. If I just go over it, it looks the same. So sometimes you want to go just a step darker. So I'm going to take this like goldenrod color and I can just start shading a little bit. Just to give it a little bit more depth. Not something that you have to do, but Again, if you want your illustrations just to not be so flat, this is a way of going in and just, again, giving it some dimension. Let's see if I can do the same with make sure that if you are going to go back in, so let's say I want to go back in with the marker, that I do that first, because I didn't do that again in some areas here. So like I want it really dark under her arm, because that's going to be a shadow. So just make sure you do that first. And I'm gonna kind of let that dry. Let's see if I can go over the hair. I'm using a brown over the gray. Not the worst. But I can start to blend it in, make it look a little bit more realistic. Okay, same thing here. So probably because I want that to be really dark, I could, if I have a slightly darker color, just go in with a darker color too. It's not going to get much darker than that. This is really dark. More like a brick red. Okay. Just so I can really kind of indicate that shadow there behind her. So it looks a little bit more three-dimensional now. Okay, and I could probably do that. Let's see, with yellow. And you can see this does take some time to just kind of build up color and, you know, get things to look like what you want them to. A little darker. And just going over with a slightly darker marker over the jacket to give it a little bit of definition. Okay. Okay, so those are my figures, and then we'll move on to doing the flats. Okay, so I generally use mechanical pencil for flats. And you really only need to draw half of your flat. It's up to you how you want to approach this. There's a weird glare. Okay, and I'm drawing my two outfits. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw my dress. The cape is attached, so that will not be two separate pieces. So I'm gonna just go ahead and draw that. So here's my neckline. So looking at my dress while I'm drawing it. And I just want to be very careful about the details. And I'm kind of ignoring the body and just using the body as a reference. And I'm either drawing with copy paper on top of the croquis for flats or drawing on tracing paper, because then we can transfer it. So I would have a higher back neckline here, if I can imagine her back. Okay, and this would meet back at the middle, at the center of her body, because you want to make your flat look as if it were hanging on a hanger and not actually on a person. So we'd have that, and then the dress, though, would actually come through here, so I can erase this a little bit. Then I have to think about the dart. So this dress is empire waist. So I'm gonna kind of draw that here. And then it comes out A-line. So I can reference the hips, just coming straight out. And I kind of have a curved hem here. And I meet at the middle. And I have a little French dart in there. And that's pretty much it. So this is just the construction of the garment. So I don't need to draw anything that would be on the surface of the garment unless it's some kind of surface treatment. And we do a call out, like a design note, but I don't need to do that for this. So I'm gonna just take either a straight edge or I can trace the center of the body there. I'm gonna take a ruler and just kind of draw up the center of the body here. When we're in CAD, we're in Illustrator, we render that and then we flip it and join it. And now I can fold it on that line and go in and draw the other half so it's symmetrical. And then if I come in on this side, I can see it. And I'm literally just gonna go in and trace this on the other side so it's symmetrical. Sorry, that was my stomach growling. And when I open it up, I have a full flat. So I don't need that center line in there. After I have my whole flat, so I'm gonna take my kneaded eraser and just kind of erase it. There's my whole flat here. And notice your back neckline sits a little higher. Waistline usually sits a little lower. So notice I can see inside my garment there. And I'm also gonna wanna draw the back. So I'm gonna fold this again to make sure that my flats are the same size and proportion. And I'm gonna trace just the back neckline edge, so that's the higher one. And in order to get in this dress, I probably have to have some kind of opening either on the side or the back. Let's say she has a side zipper. But if there was an opening in the back, I'd have a seam going down the back. So I'm gonna just draw where this cape would be in the back. And sometimes it's really hard to picture what would be going on at the back of the garment if you can't see the back. So there's my side seam, waistline. And pretty much that's my back view. I could do a seam in the back and this be split, but I don't think that's cute. Okay, so then there's my back view. So I have my front and back flat for my outfit 1. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, because these are huge, is plan where this is gonna go on my page. I know this is probably my biggest one, which is why I started with this one. So I know that's gonna go here, and they need to be in a step down. So the other one's gonna go here. So I'm gonna cut it just so I can kind of plan where it's gonna go on my page. So I cut these out. So they would be in a step down, and they can kind of overlap here a little bit. So I'd probably have my front here and my back in a step down. And then I could put my jacket front and back flat here. So they'd be, I'm not going to draw the whole thing out, here and here. Then I could do my shirt here and here, front and back flat, and then my pant here and here, and I could fit everything in the page. Okay, it is very hard to try to plan for these flats, so just make sure you go in and you have some kind of indication of the scale that you can fit on your page. I could have probably fit these 2 figures a little bit closer together to give me some more room, or I can spread out into more pages and have more boards. So to get these on the page, I can use that rub off method, which I probably have to trace a little bit. I probably have to go back over it with a darker pencil for it to show up, because I drew in the light mechanical pencil. It's showing up a little bit. I'm actually gonna just trace over it and it should show up enough. Put enough pressure on it, because again, this is just the copy paper. And with our flats, we do not color them in. What I'm gonna show you how to do is just go in with your good line quality, with your Micron or your um, fine point ink pen. And then I'll also show you how to shade them. And we shade with our medium cool gray markers. So that's good enough that I can actually go back over it with ink. Okay. And then let's do the front. Trying to think. Kind of like them overlapping a little bit. Okay, I think that's good enough that I can go over it. Okay, so next I'm gonna go ahead and grab my pen set. You can choose to just do your flats in one line weight. In CAD, we do the outline as a darker line weight. I'm gonna just test out, look at the bleed sheet. Make sure you're using a bleed sheet so you don't mess up any furniture. I needed that to go over my watercolor, but I don't think I'm gonna use that one unless I want my flats to look a little bit more painterly. So that was the brush. This is the 1 point, which is not bad. You just really have to train yourself to have a really steady hand. This is the 0.8, which is a step smaller. Or I'm sorry, that's the 0.6. I got these out of order. So the smallest in this pack is the 0.2. This is the 1 point. So this should be the next thickest after the brush tip. Yeah. 0.2 is very fine. Okay. So I think I'm gonna go in with my smaller line for my seam detail. So I'm gonna do the 0.2. My front is overlapping the back, so I'm gonna draw my front first. I want a nice steady hand. Commit to my line. None of this sort of thing like people do with their pencil. Just kind of, just barely making it. Inching forward. Don't do that. Commit to your line. Draw it. Okay. And just be nice and careful. Be aware of when you pick up your pen. Make sure you're accurate and you close all your spaces. Okay, and I want to remember my details. So I know I had French starts there. I'll go in and draw my skirt. I have pencil underneath, so I can actually go in and erase that afterwards. So I'm not gonna worry too much about it. Okay, so easy as that. There's my front flat. And I'll go in and draw my back. And if you want this to look nice, it does take some time. I like flats, but flats can look very boring on a page, but they're necessary to show garment information. And again, remember I planned for this to overlap, so you won't see the whole back. Okay, so there's my back flat. And I do want a sort of thicker line quality, so I might go in with the 0.8 just around the outline. So the very outline of the garment, I'm gonna just do the front so you can see the difference. And usually that just makes it a little easier to read the flat on the page. So I'm going around the whole outline of the garment. Notice I didn't do the darts, didn't do the inside of the poncho, didn't do the waistline seam because those are all inside the garment. And I'm keeping a steady hand, just kind of pulling my pen. But you really have to kind of commit to the flat. So you can see how that pops on the page a little bit more. And even if I went in with the 1 point, which is a little bit thicker, I could probably get more definition. Just do it on this one side so we can see the difference. And just be careful, make sure this is dry because this will smudge on your page. Okay, so I just did this one side with the slightly thicker. And you can see how that's just popping off the page. It really just depends on the look that you want for your flats. Okay. So it kind of bothers me that they're not symmetrical. They're not the same. So I'm gonna go around this one. And again, just the outline. So it's easier to read what the actual seams are. Okay, and drawing flats with a nice steady hand, which I pretty much no longer have, takes a lot of practice. So don't get yourself down if you don't think they look perfect, the first go around. It's fine. That's what the tracing paper's for. So next I'm going to just show you how you can go in and shade. Okay, so last thing I want to show is how to go in and just, if you want to add more depth and really push your flats, how to go in and shade them. So I have two markers. So this is a Prismacolor Cool Gray with 30%. And then this is Blick's Basic Gray. And just to show you, so that's the Basic Gray. You want something really light. You can build it up, and then this is the Cool Gray. That chisel tip is starting to. So I'm gonna go in my neckline inside the garment, just start to shade, still using a light source here. Again, all about making it look realistic and giving it some depth here. Let's see what just makes a difference. I think this one's a little bit darker. I'm gonna go over it. And there would be a little bit of shadow in there where the sleeve would be. Okay, and notice how it just kind of makes the flat just kind of pull off the page a little bit. So this is pretty much it. The front and back flat. There are some reminders in folio and the assignment. Front flat should always come first. It should be a step down. I like them as a step down. They can overlap as long as it's not covering any important information. Make sure you plan out your space so they don't look crowded and you don't run out of room for anything. And after this dries, I can go in and just erase all my pencil marks from planning. And sometimes you want your flats to look like they have a little bit of movement. So I can actually go in here and with my fine point, so that's my 0.2. go in here and just add some kind of crease lines if I need to. Don't know if it's really necessary, but um, also if you have anything like, I don't know, top stitching or something like that. So let's say there's some top stitching around the neckline. I want to go in with my fine point pen and indicate that. So just make sure you're paying attention to detail. Okay, I don't know where the top stitching would be. So, um, well, it would be at the hem here, but it wouldn't necessarily, because this would be more of like a semi-formal piece. I probably wouldn't top stitch it, but I just want to show you what that would look like. So I'd probably do it at the hem. Okay, and this would actually have sort of like an invisible zipper. So that would just be if I were drawing it at the side of the garment. So if you didn't see the cape, it would sit under the arm on the wearer's left side. So it would look something like this. Okay, just on the side, because this would have a left side zipper. If it's not in the center back or center front, it'd be on the left side, wearer's left side, because most people are right-handed. So yeah, I could go back in and just kind of darken this up. Give it a little bit more value. Okay, and then there's my flat. Okay, so now I'm just gonna remind you, if you do work on a different page, which is easier to plan, but if you do work on a different page, then you need to actually mount that board, just like we did the move board. Okay, so I would go in and mount this on this page. So I don't really mind, I guess, because I had such a heavy dark outline, these on the black. But you can see if I flip it over and you see it up against something light, that's a totally different look. It even looks brighter. Okay, so really be mindful about what color board you use also. And this makes it look a little brooding and dark. Okay, so I'm gonna go in, I'll probably use my spray mount and just mount this. So then I have my mood board with my fabrics. I have my lineup of all my looks and my flats. You may have another board if you want to group your looks and do some flats, and then do the rest of your looks and do some flats, or just your whole lineup and then another board with all of your flats on it. It's totally up to you for the layout.